Welcome one, welcome all to DeFi Crypto and Airdrops. I am Mike, aka Veteran Crypto, and with me, as always, for our Friday show. Thank you for always showing up, David. It's
I haven't been here for the last 2 weeks. What are you talking
I
about?
know, but the thing is that I mean, you and I'm always grateful for the people that are willing to come on the show and share their knowledge. My brother
Of course.
Taylor and Jeff there in Texas. They have their expertise, their legal expertise and their TradFi expertise. You have your DeFi expertise. So does Jake. Jeff has the airdrops knowledge that he drops on everybody. So it's really nice to have a really strong community of very knowledgeable subject matter experts that are willing and able to kind of pass that on to people like myself, because again, I am not a subject matter expert on crypto. I'm very knowledgeable, but I would not consider myself a subject matter expert, whereas you and others are. So I just wanted to say thank you, brother.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that, man. And I also I really wanted to be able to show up the last couple of weeks. Sometimes traveling gets in the way, but
It does.
yeah, man. So what's the topic of conversation for today? I'm looking forward to our call.
So what I'm thinking is well, let's talk a little bit. I want to get your thoughts on the markets and obviously how they're taking off. A lot of the morning shows have been talking about this is it. This is alt season. A lot of the charts are lend to that. So I wanted to jump into that, but real quick before we get too crazy, I've been forgetting to do this. I want to make sure that let me share my screen real quick. I want to make sure that I share. If you aren't following them, Discover Crypto Monday through Friday, great channel. Gives you the
Mike,
macro to
Mike, I
start your
can't
day.
can't see your screen on.
Oh, let me do this again. There we go.
There we go.
I appreciate you, David. So, yeah, Discover Crypto. If you're looking to start your day, it's a great way to kind of get a finger on the pulse of what's going on in crypto and markets. The macroeconomics, politics, all that stuff. Blockchain Basement. Drew over there does an amazing job with kind of going deeper in. Very based. Look on markets and politics. Me personally, I enjoy it very much. If you're open-minded, it shouldn't matter, how you lean politically, but, and then the blockchain report, Jeff, my co-host, he has his own channel where he talks about, nothing but airdrops. So, great content there. Also, if you go in the description of the channel and each of our episodes, I have links to the free DIG Discord, Discover Investment Group Discord for Discover Crypto. I'm in there. Drew's in there. DZ and TJ, we're all in there answering questions, helping each other out, helping other people out. And there's a great, huge community of people that help each other out. We also have our DeFi Crypto and Airdrops Discord link in there. We have Metrics Finance, a 10% off Metrics Finance. Those that aren't familiar, Jake, who's on the Wednesday show, great guy, been coming on here and sharing his knowledge. He developed an app that allows you to track your portfolio and to simulate real life positions in pools that potentially you want to enter. Me and him did a deep dive on it and a tutorial, and it basically shows you before you actually deploy your liquidity, it shows you what that potentially could look like, with actual real time data. So super valuable tool.
It really
Also,
is. It's
yeah,
very, very good.
and you use it as well, don't you, David?
I do. So when it comes to simulators, Metrics is the best.
Yeah.
There's a couple of functions that Metrics has that other CLP simulators just don't.
Mm.
So when I'm looking to simulate a pool, Metrics is the tool to go to.
I'm excited for it. He's talking about that here pretty. They're going to have lending. It's going to track your lending positions and stuff too. Very excited about that, especially with where we're at in the cycle. So, and I know you are too because you're the one that gave him the idea.
I know. I can't wait to see it. The whole reason is I want to be able to track my portfolio deltas. That's an
Mm,
important thing to me. So we can talk about that. But yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And then last but not least, David's DeFi University. He has a great, very comprehensive course and community. There's also a link, as you can see, to his school. But yeah, if you're looking to take your DeFi knowledge to the next level, I only go so deep here. I can only share my level of knowledge. I've been doing this for about a year now. I still consider myself a beginner slash intermediate. Um, but if you really want to understand DeFi at a very deep level, understand what delta neutral is, and, opening delta neutral positions, and, a lot of this high level strategies, you're going to need to do something like this. The most affordable program that I've found at $97 a month.
So Mike, before we move on from DeFi University, and I apologize for cutting you off there,
No, 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 no. Go.
can you go to since you're sharing your screen, can you go to DeFiUniversity.xyz real quick? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've been putting in a lot of work building out the website. And so the website is a couple of things now. Number one, it is I guess you could call it like an AI machine learning blog that ingests content from a bunch of different sources, over 120 different sources now, turns it into a database, and then creates some blog articles that are published. So, Mike, if you can share it the way that you're sharing your screen now, sharing YouTube, I'd like to talk everyone through it. So this is the blog. This is the main blog. Now, this is just one piece of DeFi University. Now, if you click on the tools section, Mike, right up there,
Real
that
quick, hold on. Let me adjust some stuff so the audience can see it a little better. There we go. That gives it a little more breathing room. All right, what do you
cool.
want me to click on?
Yeah, so this homepage here, this is the AI blog. And so what's happening here is there are over 120 different sources where data is being ingested, and then AI turns that data into these blog articles. Now, I launched this about a week ago, and as more data is ingested into the database, it's actually going to start learning. So the articles are going to start to become better and better over time. So that's the first thing is the blog here, brand new. Now, Mike, if you click on the tools section, that's the next thing that I want to share. So this right now, if you click on where it says all tools there, Mike, so this is so you see there that right now you clicked on featured, and if you scroll down a little ways, you'll be able to see all of the different placeholders for these tools that I plan to build out. But in the school community, in the DeFi University school community, I've been asking everyone what they would like to see built here. So as of right now, this is just a placeholder, but I can build any of these tools. So what I'm going to build first are three tools: an interest rate arbitrage calculator, and a volatility calculator that helps us set optimal range widths, and also an expected move calculator. Those are the first
Did
three.
did did you add our looping calculator?
Oh yeah, yeah. So that the looping calculator for sure. That's part of the interest rate arb. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So those are the first three. I'm probably going to build those tonight, tomorrow, launch them Sunday, something like that. So there's the blog, the AI blog, which is learning over time and getting better. There's the tools section, which I'm going to be building out over the next couple of days and weeks. And then, of course, if you click on university, that is to learn more about the school community. And then if you click on where it says coaching, that would be for private one-on-one DeFi coaching. So the DeFi University website, I've put in a lot of time building this out over the last, week, 2 weeks or so, and
Mm.
it's come a long way. So just wanted to put out a shameless shill there for my own
You
stuff.
know what? But the thing is that it's I mean, it looks to be that a lot of this stuff is free and it's great tools. And that's kind of why me and Jeff started this channel is we wanted to have just a good quality place for people to come where they're not going to get shilled, specific projects, or, it's or told about a project because, the influencers are getting paid. You know, a lot of the stuff that we offer, all of our, my little DeFi University that's on our YouTube channel, and then also our Discord, and pretty much everything that we do is free. You're offering, pretty much everything for free. I know at first, even your university was free, for people that were early adopters. And there's even a free version of metrics. It doesn't have all the functionality, but it at least gets people, to where they can start using these tools and see the value and almost give it a test drive. And before they pull the trigger and actually, deploy their valuable resources, kind of stepping it up to the next level. So I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
yeah,
And so that reminds me of something. So you see where that purple button on the top there, where it says free DeFi course. So that was something that I built out, you know, like 2 3 days ago. This
yeah,
course, and this is really good, man. Like it's pretty comprehensive. It's free, um, and yeah, So I don't
all right,
look. I don't make any money from the website. Like I don't have. It's not important. Like I'm a trader.
yeah,
So I don't. I'm not shilling any tokens or projects. I'm shilling education, and what I do is I live off of DeFi. This is what I do for a living, and this is what's allowed me to, travel around Northern California and pay for everything in my life. And now, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to be looking at buying a piece of property. So it's like, I live as a trader and a full-time DeFi operator.
mhm,
And, I've been giving away a lot of educational content for free. And, I do have some expenses associated with the business. So I put a paywall up on the school community. It's $100 a month if you want to join the school community. Um, I spend a lot of time uh, developing research notes that I
mhm.
publish for members in the school community. I'm going to start doing that as a newsletter in DeFi University, but everything else that I put out is free. And, I don't get paid from any projects. I would never accept money from them in the first place. I don't want that conflict of interest.
Yeah,
And man, I love what I do. So if I can share it with
that's
more
awesome.
people, man, all good.
That's awesome. All right. Well, let's give a quick shout out to the chat. Hey, Techie7, you're just the only one on X. If you want to join the conversation, jump on over here to YouTube, and join the chat over here. That's where everybody's at. There's plenty of people in the chat. So, David, do you want to take the lead and kind of
I
tell us
do.
what you're seeing,
Yeah.
what you're seeing? Because
All right.
I've been watching the morning shows and I've been watching my portfolio, and I'm seeing some pretty serious up and to the right. I'm happy with it, but I'd love a little bit of a warm fuzzy from somebody that's a little more knowledgeable than me, that is, able to say, you know what, I really think that this might be it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I would love to say that, and I do believe that as Bitcoin dominance breaks down, that this is one of the signals that we need to be able to tell us, hey, alt season, we're like on the precipice of real, true alt season. We see Bitcoin dominance continue to break down as Ethereum pushes higher. We get ETH up above $5,000 and pushing above 5,000 and holding on to those gains as Bitcoin dominance really breaks down in earnest. And when I say really breaks down, I'm
In
talking
earnest.
about, yeah, in earnest, man. I'm talking about like a down 5% week in Bitcoin dominance. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like a big move to the downside, and not just one week like that, multiple weeks, back to back to back to back. Maybe four weeks of Bitcoin dominance collapsing. Now,
that's a
what
lot
would
of
be?
back.
Yeah,
Maybe.
man. what would be required though in order to see that happen? Well, I think that what would be required is, number one, Ethereum breaking out not just to fresh all-time highs, but breaking out well above $5,000 and pushing higher and holding on to those gains. That would be number one. Now, why? Well, because Ethereum is, it's a large market cap alt. I don't know if you can really call it an alt anymore. I'll call it the king of the alts. But because Ethereum's market cap is so large, if it is pushing higher and outperforming Bitcoin, then that alone would be enough to push Bitcoin dominance sharply lower. But if we not only get Ethereum pushing higher, but we also see a rotation from Ethereum first, it seems, into Solana. Take a look at this really nice push out of Sol. So, what we've seen so far
Well, and,
as
and real quick, you
Mhm.
pointed this out 2 days ago on the Wednesday show that when Soul was starting to break out. I believe it had just broken above that previous high, and it broke trend or something. I just wanted to point out that this is something that you brought up on Wednesday.
Yeah, and this is something that we were talking about earlier today in the DeFi University school community about this particular pattern. We have some traders in the DeFi University school community who spent, decades as institutional traders. And so we have really valuable conversations back and forth. And this pattern, this is an ascending wedge. This is typically a bearish pattern that tends to resolve to the downside. The fact that Solana broke out speaks to its strength, and the fact that we're seeing Solana outperform in ETH terms. This is Sol ETH. Solana outperforming ETH
Hey,
and
real quick, I want to the chat.
outperforming
I
Bitcoin.
want to ask the chat. Put a one in chat if you think that we are going into alt season. Two in chat if you think that we are not going into alt season. I just want to get a feel for the temperature in the room. Sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think that we're in alt season because the timing is right. If you believe in the Bitcoin halving cycle analysis, then we are approaching the end of the Bitcoin bull market this cycle. That's according to the Bitcoin halving analysis. Now, what happens towards the end of a bull cycle? Well, we tend to see blow off tops, not just in Bitcoin, but also in alts. And the rotation from Bitcoin into first Ethereum, which we've seen. And if we take a look at ETH BTC, we can see this a little bit more clearly. So, this is the first rotation out of Bitcoin into Ethereum. Okay. And what we've seen out of ETH USD is nearly a triple from its lows, which were at like 1344 earlier this year in March. So we've seen the first rotation. And now with Solana breaking out and pushing higher, we're seeing the second rotation. So if we take a look at Sol ETH right here, this is the second rotation. If we take a look at Sol BTC, we can see that in another way. This is the second rotation. Now, what's the next rotation? Well, into what we're seeing the rotation from ETH into large cap alts. So that would mean Solana and a handful of Ethereum tokens. So it's Ethereum protocol tokens or governance tokens. Some of the large caps, we're seeing a rotation into some of the large caps, but not full blown euphoria, not yet. And how do you know that? Well, because let's take, maybe we take Pendle as an example here. So Pendle is one of my favorite alts, and if we want to find out, are we witnessing a rotation, from ETH into large caps or into Pendle specifically, all you got to do is price Pendle in ETH terms to see, is Pendle or any alt that you might be interested in, is it starting to outperform ETH? If you're taking a look at a Solana ecosystem token, price it in Sol terms. Is it starting to outperform Sol? And so what you'll see is that the vast majority of alts are not outperforming either Bitcoin or ETH, not yet. And so that would be the next rotation. The next rotation would be the true alt season where you see large cap alts rip higher against ETH, rip higher against Bitcoin, rip higher against Sol. That would be the next rotation. And then that's it. Like it lasts for a couple of weeks. And then that's all she wrote. That's all season. So we're right on the precipice of that, I think. Now, what is the final boss of alt season here? Well, I think it's what happens next week, what Fed Chair Powell does next week. I think that he's the final boss for us as crypto and investors in DeFi, because he has, depending on the market reaction to what he does next week, that's going to determine if we get some type of a September pullback before everything just pushes much, much higher or not. And
So,
so this, yeah,
real quick, what I mean, by all means, I mean, keep going, but I want to plant this seed. At some point, I want to get your thoughts on. I've heard from multiple very intelligent people that rate cuts doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get this, massive bull run or alt season. That it potentially could be a very bearish sign, even if they do cuts. So
yeah,
anyway, go ahead.
yeah. And that's exactly what I was actually about to get to,
Okay.
because so here's the thing. If Powell cuts next week by 25 basis points, that's already priced. So what I mean by that is market participants have already priced in a 25 basis point cut. Okay? So it's already in the price. The S&P has already priced it in. Maybe even some crypto assets, Bitcoin, ETH, Sol come to mind. Maybe it's already priced in. Now, what happens if Fed Chair Powell next week cuts by 50 basis points? Well, what happened last year, last September, when he cut by 50 basis points? What happened was long end yields pushed higher. So, what do I mean by that? Well, yields on 10 and 30-year paper pushed much higher after Fed Chair Powell lowered the Fed funds rate by 50 basis points last September. So
Hmm.
remember, the Fed and Powell, they control the very front end of the curve, the overnight lending rate. If I'm JP Morgan Chase and I go to the Fed window and I want to borrow overnight, I borrow at the Fed funds rate. But the Fed doesn't set the yield on 30-year bonds. The market does.
Jay's
And
mad at you. He says, "Damn it, David! Don't tell me it's priced in."
it's priced. You know what's not priced? What's not priced is a 50 basis point cut, though. That's the thing. That's
Okay.
what's not priced. And so if Fed Chair Powell cuts next week by 50 basis points, which is not the expectation, then you've really got to watch long end yields. So
Mhm.
watch the US 30 year. Because what happened last year leading into the September FOMC meeting? Well, we had a very similar setup to this year. Last year, into the September FOMC meeting, yields on the 30 year moved lower into the meeting. We also got the revision away of over 800,000 jobs. Turns out last year, the revision was like negative what, 810,000 or something like that. And then this year, what do we see? Well, we see long end yields moving lower into the meeting next week. And we saw the largest revision down in history of jobs. was like 911,000 jobs revised away. So that would give Fed Chair Powell the cover to cut by 50 basis points. Now, Mike, if he
I'm sorry.
cuts,
Our DGen chat is distracted me.
oh, okay.
Ellie said, "You know what's not priced in? Sack Nasty Stepmom." It's an
Yeah, I
inside
don't,
joke.
oh, okay.
There's
I
a
was
guy
about to say, I
there's a
have
guy
no
that's
idea
always
what that
in chat.
means.
He's a total degen. His name's Sack Nasty, and he has an alternate account called Sack Nasty Stepmom, and he's always being a little bit edgy. We'll just say
Great. Well,
she's always stuck
that's
in a
good.
dryer. I'll put it that way.
Okay. All righty, man. Well, hey, I was talking about yields, but now
I know, I know.
like,
You got to give
it's
shout
all
out to
good.
the chat when they get creative.
All right. So all good, man. So, I'm just thinking to myself, all right, well, next week, like, here's the thing. If you knew ahead of time what Fed Chair Powell is going to do, you still wouldn't know what the market reaction is going to be to it. So
That's true.
if he cuts by 25 basis points next week, I think that's already priced in. So I think that we probably just continue melting higher, and things are all good. If he cuts by 50 basis points, though, that's kind of interesting, because if the long end moves higher after he cuts, then I would expect the dollar to also move higher. So my expectation is that the dollar breaks support. And let's just go ahead and zoom out here. This is really important, because this would give us that tailwind as crypto investors that we've been looking for, to really get the full blown alt season that I know we've all been so patiently waiting for. So notice how far back this chart goes. Mike, this chart, this is the US dollar. This
Mm,
goes back, I'm on a weekly, this goes back, over the last couple of decades. And take a look at this trend line support, anchored to lows that were put in back in 2011. And we're sitting at trend line support now.
mm,
If this breaks, there is not support until we get to 90. That's an 8% move to the downside, which is a huge move out of the dollar. And that would be the tailwind that risk assets would need to really push higher. So I'm going to be next week closely watching long end yields, closely watching the dollar, and I'm going to be interested to see. It's going to be very interesting to see what he does. Does he cut by 50 basis points? Does he not? But your comment, Mike, about maybe a rate cut is not the best thing in the world.
mm.
Well, that point is well taken, but we'll see. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. I think that regardless of what happens next week, even if there is a correction, I think that it's a buyable correction. So I'm taking a look here at ETH on a weekly, and here's Bitcoin on a weekly. If there is a correction next week on the
Well,
back of
real
Fed
quick,
Chair
David.
Powell, yeah, go ahead.
Just back on the dollar real quick. I had a question, and then it looks like Jay had a question. He was asking, wouldn't a weak dollar be bullish for us?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's exactly the point that I'm making. I'm
All right.
saying that if Fed Chair Powell cuts next week and the dollar breaks down,
Okay.
well,
Okay.
then, so here's the thing. Last year, last September, when Fed Chair Powell cut by 50 basis points, long end yields moved sharply higher, and so did the dollar. So
Mm,
Fed Chair Powell cut the front end, and the long end blew out. Now, he did that ostensibly because of the revision away of over 800,000 jobs. Well, we just got the largest revision away of jobs in history. Inflation seems to not be ticking sharply higher. So, shouldn't he be cutting by 50 basis points next week? And if he does, do we see a repeat of what we saw last year, where he cuts by 50 bips and then the 30-year blows out higher? What if that happens?
mm,
If that happens, then I would expect the dollar to actually rally, but I don't think it would be able to hold on to a
mm.
rally. So If there's a rally out of the dollar next week, well, then that would create the pullback in risk assets that I think we can buy. Um,
Here's
mhm.
a really interesting take. So Philip is saying Japan may also raise interest rates to further weaken the dollar. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, Japan raising rates from it's not necessarily the raising of rates, it's the speed. It's the
Okay.
speed at which rates have changed.
Hmm.
So here's 30-year JGBs. These are Japanese government bonds. And this is a weekly chart, and so this goes back a couple of decades, and
Hmm.
take a look at where yields were on Japanese government bonds back in 2019. Basically it's zero. um, and now, just a couple of years later, 3.2%. But the speed at which this has shot higher, this delta is what messes up market participants. Here's why. If I was engaged in a carry trade, a
Hmm.
couple of years ago, meaning, I went to, I'm borrowing yen at, 0%, and then I'm taking those yen and buying some US dollar denominated assets with them. If I was engaged in that trade, well, as long as I'm paying nothing to borrow, then it's like free money. Here's the risk, though. The
Hmm.
risk is what I borrowed, the interest rate suddenly moves higher. And so we saw that first unwind of that, so-called yen carry trade. We saw the first unwind of that. I think it was what, last
Sounds a lot
August
like
or something.
looping.
It is. That's exactly what it is. So what we do in DeFi
Hmm.
is, it's the same thing as what guys do in TradFi. The only difference is that our markets in DeFi are not as liquid as theirs are yet. So, if someone wants to, engage in a yen carry trade, they might do it with, multiple yards. So a yard in Forex refers to $1 billion.
And
So
forex, for those that don't know, forex is foreign exchange. So that's
mhm,
when people are basically trading currencies, fiat currencies. Sorry, go
right.
ahead.
Yeah. So if I'm a trader and I borrow in yen at 0%, and I go and I
Mhm.
buy Nvidia stock with those yen that I'm paying nothing to borrow, and then all of a sudden, instead of paying 0%, now all of a sudden the rate, over the course of just a couple of weeks goes from 0 to 1.7%. That's a problem. Like, so now
Yeah.
what you've got to do is you've got to unwind that trade and pay back your borrow.
Hmm.
And that's, I think why we saw the first unwind of this yen carry trade last year. Is this a risk that I'm tracking? Of course it is. Here's how you play it. You buy gold. Here's why you buy gold. Gold has been tracking long end yields up. So as bond vigilantes become less willing to lend to governments that are running these massive fiscal deficits, well, where do those flows go? They've been going into gold, they've been going into silver. They really haven't been going into Bitcoin yet, though. And so
Hmm.
that's the next thing that I'm looking for. I want to see some of those bond flows as investors flee these, return free risk assets. That's basically what these bonds are. There's no
How
return.
are you tracking that? In case anybody out there wants to look at that,
You know, that's a
is there
really good. That's a really good
is
question.
there just
Here's,
there isn't an easy way?
I'm sure that there must be, but the way that I'm thinking about it is, if long end yields push higher, and we see maybe like a ten or $20,000 candle on a
Hmm.
daily session out of Bitcoin, to me that would mean that, you know there are greater flows
Massive
into
flows.
Bitcoin. Yeah,
Gotcha.
massive inflows coming from somewhere. Um, And the bond market is just so much bigger than Bitcoin that even a 3 or 5% allocation, man, that would push Bitcoin much, much, much higher. And if that happened quickly, then the guys who've been talking about $250,000 Bitcoin by the end of this year, even though
Mm.
that just sounds kind of ridiculous, if you look at yields on long dated bonds, it's like, well, why in the world would I ever buy bonds if I could buy Bitcoin? But Bitcoin's got to start trading like a risk off asset. And it's not yet anyway. Bitcoin still trades more like, Nvidia stock than it does like gold. So if we see um, outflows from bonds, meaning higher yields, and we see Bitcoin tracking that higher like gold has been, then that would give me some confidence to say that maybe we're seeing Bitcoin start to trade more like a risk off asset too.
Mm.
So that's kind of what I'm looking for there.
Yeah, it's it's funny that you mentioned gold. I mean, I've always been a precious metals and rare coins guy. I actually even ran a coin shop for a while. But gold, and I catch people doing this all the time, and they might have logic behind it, but they keep comparing Bitcoin to gold. And different people have different narratives, but I don't see them. I'm kind of, it sounds like more along the lines with you. They aren't the same. Bitcoin is, I don't see it as much as a stable store of value yet. Could it get there? Absolutely. But gold, historically, for the most part, only goes up. A lot slower, yes, but it does. Over the long term, it is has an upward trend. Whereas Bitcoin historically has very dramatic ups and very dramatic downs, and until it can stabilize more. I mean, I don't see where that's it's apples and oranges, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. So gold goes down too.
Yeah,
you know,
as
it
violent,
does.
and not
Uh,
as violently as Bitcoin.
Yeah, so when I first started trading, that was in 2010, and
Mm,
my first trade was to buy GLD. And I bought GLD right as gold, went from it was like what, $1,200. It went up to under $2,000. That was my first ever trade. What happened after gold rallied up to $2,000 though? It was a little bit lower than that. It was like 1960 was the peak. After it put in that high, well, price of gold went from those highs down 43%. So gold does also move to the downside. But this amazing move higher out of gold that I'm showing on the screen here, you know, I think that gold probably holds on to these gains. Um, and here's why: because fiat currencies are going to be debased more rapidly. And so I think gold holds on to these gains and pushes higher from here. So yeah, very bullish on gold, very bullish on Bitcoin, very bullish on silver, very bullish on most commodities. And you know, I think the thing to watch, the risk for us as digital asset investors, the risk is what happens to the dollar next week after Fed Chair Powell cuts. If the dollar bounces, I think that would give us the last dip that we can buy before full blown alt season. If the
gotcha.
dollar breaks down, then hey, that's like adding gasoline to the fire, and alt season just we that's where we'd see like the real true alt season.
Hmm.
And I'm just I'm waiting for it, man. It's right there. It feels like, and we've been so patiently waiting. There have been so many, you know,
Some more than others.
I mean, so many false alt season calls, but
Oh,
this
dude,
is,
yeah.
yeah, this looks
People
like the
will
real deal.
I don't blame people because I mean people are hungry for it. I mean it's been brutal. I mean I've been here for only the downside. And I'm very stoic about it, and I'm just like very whatever. But I came in at the very end of the last bull cycle. So all I've been doing is I've been DCAing on the way down while we were trending sideways, all of it. And so I get it. People, and then, you had FTX, and you had Celsius, and all this stuff that happened through the bear cycle, the bear, and all this stuff. And so whenever anybody starts to see some green, they're probably just like, yes, finally something, to undo, or to try to make back some of that. But this is kind of the comparison that I was looking at, when it comes to gold and Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin being this magenta, line, it's, yes, 100% outperforms gold, as far as, I can tell, but you can see it has very dramatic swings, very dramatic pumps and dumps. Whereas gold, yes, it has ups and downs, but it's just, for the most part, it's, just over time, it's, pretty much just up and to the right. You're not going to get, the parabolic gains that you're going to get in Bitcoin, though. I personally think that over time, though, I really feel like that we're at that precipice, or that tipping point of, where we're going from that retail speculative, and I've been saying this for like over a year now, that we're going from this speculative market of, this new tech crypto, and we're moving into the utility to where it's actually being adopted. No more promises of, this is what we're building, this is what we're, the pain point we're trying to address. We're moving into the point where it's like, time to put up or shut up. Time to put up and show what you can actually do. People are going to adopt it, people are going to build on it, or the curtain's going to get, pulled back, and, they're going to see the wizard, or that there is no wizard, or that the emperor has no clothes, and that what they were claiming they were building, there's nothing there. And
Stable
so,
coins, Mike. Stable
you
coins.
you think stable coins, like all of them, or a lot, or just some of them?
No, 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 no. What I'm saying is, I think stable coins are like the first real wave of adoption of this technology. You know, it's at first, it was people, buying and holding Bitcoin, and now, like when you talk about real utility, like I live my life on the Ethereum chain,
Yeah.
and everything that I do is because of what I do on Ethereum. And that also happens to be the chain with the vast majority of stablecoins on it.
Mhm.
So the innovation that we're seeing out of these stables, I think that this is just the first real wave of utility. I think we're going to see more and more tokenized stocks. We're going to see more tokenized real estate, tokenized cars, you name it. Imagine being able to go to Aave and uh, you put up the NFT to your title to your car. The title to your car is an NFT. And so you
Mhm.
supply it as collateral on Aave, and then you can borrow against it. How
I
cool
think
is that?
that California, DMV already did that on Avalanche. I do believe. I remember. I think Drew on Blockchain Basement covered it when it happened, because he's very bullish on Avalanche. But yeah, it's definitely. I'm definitely right there with you. I was hoping to get into that tokenization summit in New York next week. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, but they there is a lot going on with tokenization. Not just real estate and art and all the stuff that people always talk about. I personally know a company that is an international shipping company. They have those big container ships, and they ship internationally. They're wanting to tokenize their vessels, because then they can basically allow people to buy into the into the vessels, which makes that liquid to where they can expand their fleet. My brother Taylor, that's on the usually on the Thursday show, he is actually tokenizing a legal fund, to where they usually, whenever a smaller law firm goes after a corporation or something like that that has an army of high end lawyers on a retainer, the best you can hope for is that like a pharmaceutical company, is that they're going to settle out of court. Their bean counters are going to crunch numbers, and they're going to say it will cost us this much to drag this out, and grind them down until they can't basically sue us anymore. This is what we should pay them, and usually lawyers are like, hey, take it, because that's all you're going to get out of them. They'll basically draw this out for decades, and you'll never see anything. And so they actually are tokenizing a legal fund so that people can invest and fund, these extended lawsuits, and the multi-billion-dollar lawsuits. And so, I mean, it's just there is a lot of things that are going to be happening with tokenization.
Yeah,
And
the
bringing
innovation.
technology. I mean, hell,
Yeah.
fishing licenses. If a game warden can just look on chain and be like, "Yep, he has a license. Cool."
Hey, how about voting? What do you think about
Voting.
that? Voting, right?
I've been screaming that from the rooftops. Where you have full transparency. You want to give confidence back to the citizens of whatever country in their voting system.
Hmm.
Put it on chain. It can be
Hmm.
fully audited by anybody. I can go on there and I can audit it and see, okay, these are the people. You can go through and you can say these are the people that are able to vote. That they are registered to vote. They are legitimate voters, and you can basically see if it's legit. There's no more accusations of stuffing ballots or hanging chads or any of that kind of stuff. It's all right there in black and white for any citizen to go online and see. It
Public, on-chain,
Yep,
verifiable,
yep.
makes a lot of
Secure.
sense. Hmm.
People from their phone, with an app. It would ensure that just like a wallet address, it would ensure that I only get one vote. Me as a U.S. citizen, I am registered voter. I get one vote, and I could vote from my phone. So you don't all this stuff about marginalized groups and not having an ID and not being able to get to the voting
That's a
voting
lie.
the
It's such a
polling
lie,
station.
man. It's like,
It
dude, you
is.
can't do anything without an ID.
I
Like,
know.
IDs are given to illegal aliens. Like that, the whole idea that ID for voting is somehow discriminatory
Or a
is in
barrier.
and of it
Yeah,
is just false. I think. Yeah.
it is. But I mean, aside from that, though, I mean, it is such a powerful technology that we're only scratching the surface of right now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's let's see what the chat has to say. So Jacob says he's been DCing since 2021. He's hoping to get some of his tuition back. Let's see. Psi 20, should I be unstaking and shutting down liquidity pool things? Well, you know what? I'm actually going to give my 2 cents first, and then you give us the
Sure.
solid out. So
Sure.
what
Sure.
I have done, with kind of the way things are looking, and and have been for the past week or so, other than lending, staking, I have and I use the term staking loosely. If there's any lockup period or cool off, I am exiting those. I want stuff that I can unstake, and within 24 hours I can have that liquid to sell or do whatever I want to do with it. But lending and staking are about the only thing I'm still in. There are a couple of liquidity pools, like my full range black USDC pool that's been making me 300%. It's a juicy enough APY that, and black hasn't done a huge amount of movement yet. I'm letting that one ride, just because of a steady 300%. If the markets really start moving, I'll probably exit that position as well because I want full price appreciation. I've already stacked my bags. I've already built my bags. Even black, I have about $1,600. If it goes back to its recent all time high since its launch, I'll have $8,000. I started that pool with $800. So that would be a 10x just if it goes back to its recent
That's a
all-time high.
that's a. I wouldn't think like that, Mike.
Well,
Like
I mean, if
the
you want.
coulda, the woulda, coulda, shoulda about like if this then that. 10x for like
No,
I
but
don't know,
you know
man.
what? I don't care if it
Yeah.
doesn't. All I'm saying, David, is if
Mm.
it only goes to its recent all-time high of $1.50,
Yeah,
then
I don't think that's likely for black though, because speaking specifically about the black token, like that thing is
well, let me put it
so
this way then.
yeah.
Regardless, I started out with $800. I now have $1,600. I've doubled my money. So if it doesn't go up, I'm still earning 300%. So I'm earning yield on
So
it even if it
yeah,
doesn't
but
pump.
bro, like 300% on something that's down from $2 to 20 cents. Like the 300% doesn't really mean anything, you
The
know?
damage is done.
Yeah, yeah, and because
I,
black
I
is
wrote it down.
yeah, because black is a VE33 DEX token, and
Mhm.
it just launched. That makes it extremely inflationary. So I'm
Same thing
actually
happened with Arrow. Arrow
yeah,
went
it
from
did, it
$2.20
did.
down to 30 cents. It's back up
Mhm.
to what? A dollar,
Well, but the Arrow's a different beast because that first pump
dollar
in
26.
Arrow did nothing but go down. So,
Yeah.
I was using Aerodrome the week it launched
Mhm.
in August of 2023. And Arrow's token did nothing but go down. And the reason is because it's extremely inflationary. It's a reward token. And, here's the thing. Um, Arrow is on the base chain.
Mhm.
And on the base chain, you got this little company called Coinbase, right?
Oh yeah.
And so, Coinbase announced that they
Basic.
invested in Aerodrome,
Yeah.
but you don't really have something similar for Black Hole. And because the token and the DEX just launched, it's still got like many more months of inflationary tokenomics. So, just the idea that I'm earning 300%. I'm down 90% on my capital, but I'm earning 300%. So it's okay. Like, I would really like everyone to get away from that idea.
I'm not down on my capital though. I
Well,
invested 800
no,
and I've doubled my
so,
money.
when I look at the chart of black, what I see is a token.
You're talking about the value of black is down 90%. I put in
Correct.
$800 and because of the yield, I've doubled my initial investment even though it's gone down.
I don't believe that to be true. How did you track that?
I'll show you the position. Let's see. Where is VFAT?
I want to be proven. I just want to see it.
No, I'll
So
show you. I'm
about
always
in US dollar terms.
yeah, no, my deposit. I'll show it to you. Like I said, I'm always transparent. Doo-ba-doo. Yield deposits. All right, let me share that screen. Doo-ba-doo. All right, share my screen. Where is it at? Let's move this over here and see if it will. There we go. Yep, right here. So USDC Black, $1,594.56, and I started with $800. I seeded it. That's like what I do with all my positions. Arrow, I did it. Mamo, I did it. What else?
So
Uh,
you must not have entered this position when Black launched. Then
it was pretty soon after that, but for a while there, Black was making like 2 or 3,000%, and I had it in there the whole time. So I'm just telling you what I did. I mean, I've
hey man,
definitely,
great, that's
you know,
awesome.
yeah.
It usually doesn't work out that way.
No, no, I'm not saying that mirror what I did or copy DeFi me or anything like that. But I'm just saying it's like a lot of my positions I started with $800. It's kind of my little thing that I do.
Look,
Um,
Mike. I'm happy to be proven wrong, man. That's great. Like I'm
no, no,
happy
no.
that that worked. It's just that it's very very dangerous to chase yield like that. That's the thing.
Oh no, I wasn't chasing yield. I mean, it was pretty much just I wanted to build a bag of black. and I had, yield from other pools at the time, and I was looking to get into something, and I was like, hey, cool, new project. There's a lot of, hype around it. I'll throw some money in there. And to be honest, it dipped, and I decided to just let it ride,
Cool,
and
man. Yeah. So,
it's worked out.
the question from one of the commenters was about do I stay in these LP things? I thought it was
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We
kind
got
of
on
a
a rabbit trail.
I know,
Um,
right? And so, no, it
so,
was kind of
so
it was a good question.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I mean, for me, other than that one pool, I have a couple of little bits of stable coins that are in, a couple of positions just because I'm testing out different protocols. But for the most part, if lending or staking with, with no lockup or cooldown longer than like 24 hours, I'm pretty much out of everything. Full price appreciation. But I'll kick it over to you. What say you, David?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, LPs are nonlinear. So, what does that mean? Well, and it really, the nonlinearity changes depending on whether you're talking about a full range LP or a concentrated LP. And so, what that means in practice is that you're not going to be able to participate in price appreciation in an LP in the same way that you can if you're holding a spot asset, which
Mhm.
is linear. So for me, because I need the cash flow, I still have LPs open, but I'm starting to much more aggressively buy spot assets as I've seen ETH push above $4,500 again, and as I see Bitcoin dominance look like it's on the precipice of really sharply breaking lower. So for me, if I want to participate in price appreciation, what that means is buying spot. If I want to earn yield, that means being in an LP. And so I think about them differently. I don't try to use an LP to participate in price appreciation. I use the LP so I can earn yield. And
Well,
then
I, I
if I
think I
want
think
to,
I think that's what his question was, though. Is should he be? Well, here I'll put it up. It says, should I be unstaking and shutting down liquidity pools? So I think what he's asking is do you feel this is the time where he should be, like you were saying, getting out of the liquidity pools, because it sounds like this person's wanting to get full exposure to the price appreciation. So it sounds like you're saying
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So it depends on what your intention is.
Mhm.
If you want to generate yield, stay in the LPs. If you think that we're about to see like a real alt season where things rip higher, then you really don't want to be in LPs. You want to be holding spot. So if you think that we're about to rip higher, then hey, yeah, it would be time to unwind or close your LPs and hold those assets spot instead.
Mhm. Awesome, awesome. Well, we got a couple of hundred people watching live right now. If you could, pop over here to YouTube and give us a like and a follow, because uh, we we're just doing this for free.
Spitballing, just
Well,
spitballing, man.
we're spitballing too, but I mean, we're doing this for free. We don't have sponsors. We're not monetized in any way. We don't even make money off YouTube. So all we ask is that you help us spread the word, because we're just trying to give good quality content to all of you out there. This isn't a money making thing. This is a love of the game for us. I know David's very passionate about DeFi. I know I am. I mean, I sit in front of this computer hours and hours and hours a day, learning, and so that I can try to teach. Again, that's why I'm so grateful that David is so gracious to come on the show as others to share this knowledge.
I love this
But
stuff, man. Yep.
oh, I know. I could talk about DeFi all freaking day. I think my lady and my friends and family, they're really careful to not bring it up when I'm
Yep.
around. But so yeah, I mean, we're talking about stable coins. So we have Ethereum here. You can see that the TVL, or the market cap for stable coins, has really started taking off. I wanted to point something out and get your take on it, David. I do want to point out that we've hit our hour. If you're able to stay longer, awesome. If not, we can definitely wind this down.
Yeah, no, I've got another 5 minutes. I've got an appointment at 3:15. So, but
All
I'm
right.
literally down the street from it, so I get to go walk down there.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
So I was wanting to point out Tron. When you were
Yes.
talking about the kind of the heavy hitter when it comes to stable coins. Obviously it's Ethereum. With about 154 billion. Tron has 80 billion. So about half. Am I getting that right? Yeah. Roughly half of what ETH has, which I found to be very impressive because you don't hear a lot about Tron, but Tron seems to be a big heavy hitter. And what kind of put it on my radar, I'll throw this in there real quick before I get your take, is that Plume recently partnered with Tron, for their stablecoin, access to their stablecoin liquidity for their RWA and their DeFi. And Plume has been on a run today. It's up about 17%. I mean, it was down around 7-8 cents there for a while, and now we're getting up back to around 14 cents. So I'm pretty excited about that. I know a lot of people in our community are as well.
And take a look at the chart of the TRX of the Tron token.
All right.
So, I don't know here if you want me to share my screen real quick, or if you want to
Oh
bring
yeah,
up
yeah. Go
my.
ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
can. I can share this one real quick, and then I've got to run. But so this is Tron. This is TRX, and I think this is called a parabola. Now this is a monthly. So let,
Called going freaking nuts.
going parabolic, and here
Yes.
let me zoom into a daily. And okay, so this is a daily. Let's zoom out from a daily to a weekly here. And so there really aren't that many assets in crypto where over the last several years, they've basically done nothing but go up. And
Mhm.
Tron is one of them. I mean, if we take a look at Tron in March of 2020, yeah, it had a peak and it pulled back, but it never put in a lower low. It's just been forming this parabolic shape and pattern, and so like, are we going to see this thing just 65 cents in the next couple of weeks, like just rip higher, like go vertical? Maybe. I think it depends on how many more billions of dollars of stables are minted on the Tron chain. And the challenge for me with Tron, Mike, is that like I've tried to use it in DeFi, and there really aren't that many protocols that you can use
Yeah.
on Tron in DeFi, um, and they're not quite what I'm used to as an Ethereum chain operator. The protocols on the Tron chain are not quite. It's not like you're using Aave or something like that. It's or Uniswap. There are there is a Lenbar protocol, there is a DEX on Tron, but they're not quite as mature yet as Ethereum's protocols are.
Well,
So
and that's what kind of excited me when I saw that they were partnering with Plume, because Plume is very new and it's building out. It's very specific that it's about RWAs and DeFi. So that I'm hoping to see some of that kind of go both ways, where Plume gets more access to that stablecoin liquidity, and that Tron gets access to the DeFi and the RWA, and that use case, I guess would be the best word to way to put it.
yeah, so isn't Tron used for like stablecoin payments internationally? Isn't that like its major use case, I think?
I'm not going to pretend like I know a whole lot about Tron. It's not something I'm
Like
invested in,
I've
but
never like actually used it like that. I've used
no,
Tron like barely. Mm.
I mean it's all over the place. Like I'm looking at Coin Market Cap right now, and I mean it's on pretty much every freaking exchange. Um, but the explanation it gives for it. is a decentralized blockchain-based operating system developed the Tron Foundation, ERC-20 based tokens on Ethereum, and then they moved to their own network. It looks
Didn't
like.
didn't
Oh, go ahead.
Justin's son found? Isn't he the founder or the creator?
I I believe so. Yes,
Maybe
and
it's
I
just him. maybe
but
maybe maybe all the $80 billion of liquidity is just him, man. He's just trading with himself. I don't know.
you
You
know
know,
what? It's that's a genius move. That's a genius move.
kind of
Well,
messed up what happened to him with
World
WLFI.
Liberty Pie. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. No,
That's not
it's
good.
that's one I'm glad that I can't do it. I mean, is I support Trump and all that, but um, it's after what he did with that meme coin. When the market started to show some life, he came in with that Trump token and Melania token and just sucked the air out of the room.
It
And after,
literally did. It was
yeah,
so weird, man. Like,
it
so
was.
he launched it on a Friday evening.
Yep,
And then the next day, you saw everything down except for the Trump meme coin, which
everybody ate into that
it
thing, and
was
then
like,
they sucked the liquidity out.
and, World Liberty Financial, I think, was the recipient of like $500 million of profits over that weekend, that launch weekend. And
Exactly.
just the fact that Justin Sun's wallets were frozen as WLFI was dumping, like,
Yeah.
dude, that's not cool. I don't like
No.
that.
No. So
Mm.
I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah,
That
man.
I know you got to
So
go.
I
I
do.
appreciate you, brother, and
Thank you, Mike.
I mean, don't get me wrong, and I want everyone out there. If you have to choose somebody to listen to when it comes to DeFi, please choose David over me because yes, I lucked out with
No,
that that
eh,
black where I doubled my money, but in 99% of the cases, he would have been right. It's just
I just
the
heard
stars
I
aligned.
heard danger. When you're talking about something like that position,
Yeah.
like I've seen enough of this to know that that is extremely risky. So I had
Oh,
to pull
yeah.
back a little
No,
bit.
no,
Yeah.
no. It was definitely a high risk play, and it's not something I'm like super convicted on. It's not like I don't think black's going to the moon or anything like that. I would be happy if it just went back to that, last all time high at $1.50, and I was able to get my little 10x. Because that's all I'm trying to get out of my whole portfolio is a 10x. So if any one of my assets, gets to a 10x, I'll already be kind of DCAing out. So
So
I'm
here's
not looking for 100x's or anything.
here's one thing to think about with that though.
All right.
So um, it's not easy to hold something for a 10x. Let's say that you invest $1,000 in something, and tomorrow it's doubled, and now it's $2,000. You just doubled your investment. Let's say the next day it doubles again, and now you got $4,000.
Mhm.
You're up 4x. How do you hold on to something like that, especially
Well,
during a correction? It's difficult to
this,
do emotionally, is what
this
I'm
is
saying.
this is what I use so that I don't have to think about that. Is I got my little spreadsheet and it has all my assets on it. I've already put what percentage, what I'm selling at what price, and it's not a 10x. Some of them it's just when it doubles or triples, and this is when I'm getting out of these assets. And that's just I'm holding myself to it. Am I going to hit all my take profit? Probably not. But if I even hit 50% of them, I'll have 250 to $300,000. Cool. So I just
Yeah.
that's what I've done to keep myself honest because I agree with you. When emotions, things start pumping and it's either you're going to hold on to it too long or you're going to sell it too soon. So that's why I came up with my little spreadsheet where it puts me if I hit all my take profit points, I'll have a little bit over 500,000. So I kind of overestimated. So if I fall short, hopefully I'll end up between that 4 and 500,000 I'm trying to hit. Will I? Who knows? If
I
I
hope
don't,
so.
At
I
least
hope
I
so.
will
I
have
do.
more than I
I
started with.
hope I hope you make $1 million off of it, man. Like, you know, I'm just saying that something for me would be I would much rather sell early
Mhm.
than round trip. Or
Yes,
yeah, so I
yes.
mean, look, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, you
Well,
know,
and
yeah,
again, that's why I have those take profits, because then it's like I don't have to make a decision. I'm just like, this is what I decided on. This is what I'm doing. And it's going to ensure that if the markets do anything, I'll at least get my initial investment out. Anything above that is gravy. And
there you go.
if I don't reach those, I'll have some bags, and hopefully those projects will be around, next time.
Yeah, man, you know, we'll see.
I
I
know,
think
man.
that
I, I'm
I
a little
think
more
that
of a deep shit than you are.
yeah, no, when I look at stuff like that, I see risk. I see a ton of risk, and
Oh yeah.
this is like the only time, like these next 90 days, if that
Mhm.
Bitcoin halving cycle analysis is correct, and if Bitcoin dominance just continues to collapse as Ethereum rips higher, if that continues for another couple months, then that's alt season. We're gonna see the beginning of like a real true alt season. So this
Yeah.
is the only time where that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this is the exciting part. You know, we've been waiting for this, and as long as you can be disciplined, like Mike is, with the spreadsheet and willing to stick to your ladder out points, then you can do really, really well. But you've got to be able to stick to it, and that's not
Yeah.
easy.
No, no, it does. It just I just know myself, and I'm very disciplined. I mean, I will stick to it because again, if I don't, then I'm going off emotion. And in my experience, when you're making important decisions like this, emotions are not the way to do it. So all right, brother. Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate
You got
everybody
it.
in the. Till next time, veteran
Till
crypto
next
out.
time. Thank you, Mike.
Not a problem, brother.